Lunch and Learn. And I'm excited that we have Pastor Jared Buchanan that's going to share with us about starting Christian schools. And if you've been around Jared very much, you know that he's very passionate about that. And one of the reasons why he's passionate about it is because their church has done it and it's working. And they're accomplishing a lot of the objectives that they set out to accomplish. So I'll let him explain all of that to you, but we're just so glad to have him here. And he's here to share some information, but also answer your questions. And I'm sure you'll have a lot more questions after he's done. If you don't get them all asked, he's available. He'll be glad to help you, coach you, walk you through the process, and help you to assess whether this is the right thing for your church. So I'm just going to turn it over to him and let him lead us.
Okay. We don't need this, do we?
No.
Well, I guess we should start with the word of prayer. Thank you, Father, for the food, the fellowship we've already had. Lord, we pray as we change subjects, Lord, that you would lead, guide, direct the conversation. And Lord, we pray to be a profitable time for everyone. In Jesus' name, amen. So I'm going to go through the slides, and I encourage you to stop me along the way and ask questions just to make the conversation lively. I don't want to lecture to everybody and everyone hold their questions to the end. Don't hold your questions to the end. Ask them before you forget them. This first slide I wanted to start with, I intentionally put the word church school because that is what I am a proponent of. Not a church separated and then a school. No, a church school, which is a big difference. There's lots of private schools that are independent. What I'm proposing for folks to consider is a church to see a school as their ministry, not a completely separate standalone entity, but under the umbrella of the church and the leadership authority of the church. So that's how I present. That's what I propose. Things you need to know. Some of this may be commonsensical, but you need to consider as we go through. It takes a pastor with a burden. If the pastor, senior pastor, is not burdened for it, it will fizzle, die on the vine. Even if a prominent church member is excited about it, it takes the pastor being burdened for it. Without that, it will fizzle. I'm not saying the pastor has to do everything, but the pastor needs to be involved in everything for it to truly have that authority as you go through the process. So you can't delegate to a committee, y'all start a school and you have my blessing. It just won't. You have volunteers without the pastor pushing it on. It's not going to have longevity. So I truly believe that the pastor is the deciding factor in whether it works or not. As we set out to do this, just so you know, there was multiple times that I did not think it was going to work. And I would tell our folks, this may not work. I almost provided them too many prefaces to my visions. I almost shot myself in the foot, but I really wanted them to understand this is not a guarantee. There's so many hoops to jump through to get to the point of having students that things can be delayed, pushed back, canceled. One of the things as I was pitching this to the church was, look, if we don't have enough interest from the community, parents signing their kids up, we won't do it. We're not going to do it unless we have, I think at the time we were saying 7 students. If we don't have 7 students, we're not going to do it. And we'll know that by June or July. So we may get to the point where we're 2 months away from school starting and we're going to pull the plug if we don't have enough, and we'll punt for a year. So there was this real sense throughout the process, this may not work. And I was full of anxiety throughout the process. There were times where, I couldn't sleep. There were times that were super difficult, and I was convinced we failed. Things like not turning in certain documents on time, my fault. And I missed the deadline. But then I call and they give me an extension. Or I don't have the right financial information. We'll get into that. but they accepted it anyways. So it was just amazing that the process, even though the pastor is the deciding factor, he is surrounded by so many people that are helping him along the way. Church members and believe it or not, the government, the state government, we'll get into that. They're not antagonistic towards churches at all doing this. So that was one of the surprises I had, is how many folks actually were very helpful to me that didn't know me. So we'll get into that. Just to do a little bit of take a step back, the foundation to ministry must always be rooted in Scripture. And so for us, the obvious passage was the Great Commission and the command to make disciples and to teach. So what greater way of teaching systematically the Scriptures than a 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday school with students where they have Bible class and the Scriptures are interwoven in all the subjects. So to me, our greatest discipleship program is our school. And we're discipling students who otherwise would not be in a private school. So in our community, if our students weren't going to our school, they'd be going to Lake Weir and Fort McCoy. They would not be driving into Ocala to OCA or the other schools. Not my people. So I truly felt like every student we have, we are saving them from the government-run schools. And this is our effort to make disciples of our Jerusalem. So when you share with your people or you're pitching this idea, you ought to have some scriptural basis to your argument, obviously. And people understand and frame the vision in terms of an imperative felt in the Scriptures. Again, anything you want to add or ask, go for it.
Is this being recorded?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, good.
So one thing that got my attention is when Martin told me, and you also added to this, and this is good, and a lot of churches are going to hear this, but the one thing I think churches are going to really be on board with, and this is backing it up, is the need right now for Christian schools. And that's why Martin told me that it is needed. I mean, right now that the schools are full. Can you expand a little bit on that as far as?
Well, private schools had a genesis during the integration years in the 1970s. And so many communities started Christian schools so their kids wouldn't have, I know I'm painting with a broad brush, but if you look back at the established dates of so many private schools, it's during the time of integration, to be frank. Now, there's another big influx of Christian schools, and it's because of the voucher system in Florida. It's making it available, making it possible. So we're living in, from just my observation, a renaissance of Christian education led by Florida. So I will talk about that at a later slide, but it's never been more possible and capable for churches to do this than now. And every year it gets a little easier, a little better. The state had a lot of bugs in their systems, their websites. Things are getting easier and easier for people like us to figure out how to do it. The need is huge.
Just to answer Matt's question, though, as far as the, I'm sorry, you were just about to go to need, but as far as what's happening in public schools, the public schools are at capacity. And as far as I know, Marion County has no immediate plans to build any new schools. And so in the elementary schools, they're redrawing the boundaries, and parents are having to take their kids to schools farther away from where they live in order to go to the schools that are not beyond capacity. And so the state will not provide funding to the county to build new schools until all of the schools are at capacity. And the county is not collecting any impact fees to raise their own money to build new buildings. So for the sake of Marion County and the growth that we're experiencing, to keep that growth from coming to a screeching halt, it's an economic necessity that other schools are opened up. So just to meet that specific need, much less the need for good quality Christian curriculum.
Right.
Yep.
I don't know if that's where you're getting ready to go, but
The state is all about this. They are happy for churches to take the load off of their budgets. So I wrote this: when in the history of the world has a government refunded tax money to a family for the purpose of education facilitated and led by local churches? When has that happened? I mean, public education is an American thing where poor citizens can get a public education. You know, that's 19th century American vision. And for the state now to actually fund this, I just think we live in such a unique time. How long will the situation last? Who knows? Who knows? I do know when you give an American an entitlement, it's hard to get back.
Yeah.
So, Lord willing, it's not going to go away. It's ramping up. Florida has more students receiving vouchers than all the other states combined. So Alabama has a voucher system, Georgia, North Carolina, all the red states are starting to get into this, but Florida is by far more advanced in how they distribute the funds. I went to a conference a couple weeks ago at our school's accreditation association has an annual conference. And they invited one of the folks from the state to come and share. And she was a believer. And she shared off the record that what they're doing in their office for the step up here in the state of Florida is going to have an impact on the rest of our country. As Florida succeeds and does well with it, we're kind of the guinea pig. That it hurt. She then said, I think it's going to affect the world, because other nations will see the success of privatizing education. And so I like to think big that we're on the cusp of a change in world history of education. I don't think that's too small to think. But Florida is the guinea pig. I think it's a historic opportunity. Marion County, 42,678 students. In our county, our school board, 21-to-1 ratio. These three schools are Southern Baptist. These are as far as I know, these are the only three Southern Baptist church schools in the county. And the student total is right there. Now, my children go to First Assembly. And we have to tolerate some doctrinal differences that are taught. There's the Lutherans, St. John Lutheran. There is OCA, which is Independent Baptist, a little more strict. Not the version of the gospel I want presented to my children. So Southern Baptist Christians in Marion County kind of have to pinch their nose, hold their breath, or send their kids to one of these other denominational schools. So I look across our Marion Baptist Association. I see all these churches that are empty throughout the week. And the Lutherans are good at schools. And even the Assembly of God are getting their act together. But those are denominations. You know, we're different. We're a convention of churches. So we don't have the denominational structure like they do. But there's still no reason why Southern Baptist independent churches can't, consider this mightily. So.
Do you know if there's any funds available for homeschool students?
Yes.
The current state law?
Step Up for Students does provide. What they do is you create your own account online with them, and you turn in your receipts, and then they issue you a state credit card, a debit card, a preloaded card that covers the expenses that you spend on curriculum or whatever. And it's lower than a school voucher. I think it's in the $4,000 range. But yes, homeschool is.
That's really helpful.
Oh yeah.
So as far as curriculum, are these three right here doing the same curriculum? And if so, what is that?
I don't know. I know what we do. We use Bob Jones. I know Grace Point Academy uses PACE program.
Okay.
PACE is totally different. Every student is on an independent learning track. Donnell and Christian, I think they use a Becca, but
So I thought Becca was Bob Jones. Is that not?
So my daughter Carrie is at DCA for the first time this year, so there is some Bob Jones stuff in there, but I wouldn't say I can't speak to the elementary side, but
what school?
DCA.
Okay.
The elementary side.
First Baptist Church of Bellevue also has a Christian school.
That's right. Okay, thank you. I need to update that.
I didn't know if you knew pros and cons about each one. I'm familiar with Becca and I'm familiar with Pace. For me, being Pace was a joke to those who, if that was you. For me, I blew as good as Pace. Becca was a lot more difficult, a lot more challenging, and that's why I didn't know which one.
So I can speak for myself. When we hired our teacher, I said to her, find us a good curriculum that you can teach. And so she presented me what she liked. We used Bob Jones, and we also used, it'll come back to me in a second. We used another company too. So I gave her the freedom, because she's the one teaching it. A lot of pastors can have their strong convictions about what curriculum is better. I really like this classical curriculum, but she did not, that was not her thing.
The classical conversations.
It was, I'll think of it in a second. It was something akin to that.
Yeah.
But I'm not teaching it. She is, and I need her more than I need my curriculum in my life.
Right, I was just wondering.
Yeah. I'm not the person to ask. So how do you start this process? Hallway conversations. That's where it begins with a pastor or whoever's leading this effort. Begin vision casting to key church members. Get your critical folks on board. Long before you present some sort of plan to the church. Determine in your church who has the burden for this, like I did. And bring them on in. Create your own little conversation group. Consider the strengths of your church members, because you may have someone who's really good at carpentry and you need this built for this classroom, and you really need someone who can do secretarial work, and your resources are in your people already. You just have to kind of figure out who has a background in education. Walk the classrooms with the people. Say, wouldn't this be nice if we had 10 little kids in here? And then assess what you have already at your disposal in your church. When we started, I don't know where our little student desks came from, but at our church, we had 30 of them spread out all over the church. Like random Sunday school classrooms had these desks. And so I gobbled them all up. And so I don't know where they came from, but someone told me they've been there for years. You'll be amazed on how many projectors you have and just items you need for classrooms just laying around. Before you go off and buy things, look what you got. And I have no was it dignity? I ask anybody for anything. Yeah, how about because you ask not? So I make a fool of myself asking for stuff. I'll be with a friend eating lunch, a pastor friend, and hey, are you using that at your church anymore? Because I need it. Beg, borrow, and don't steal. But okay. After you have all these conversations, you have all the people interested, and you're talking it up. Eventually, the pastor's got to take a step out on the limb and preach a sermon or a series on disciple making. Wouldn't it be great? Cast that vision on a Sunday morning and start the conversation. Stir the nest. And from that sermon, use that as your impetus to start a exploratory committee. Who can be against that? We're just looking into it. That's what we did at our church. And at that time, I knew nothing about nothing. So I picked out some people who shared my burden, and we talked about it. We had several meetings, and we decided during that process that starting a school probably wasn't in the cards right away. But it just so happened that Chat homeschool group needed a place to call home. So our exploratory committee decided that chat would be a better fit for us for right now. So we invited them, and they stayed with us for a year before they moved on to greener pastures. Our church was a little far for them, but that's where our exploratory committee led us. And then once they exited our facility, I still wanted to continue this conversation. I wanted to get to a school, so we reconvened that exploratory committee, and I just had this thought that if we can get the tuition down to a low amount, perhaps we could have enough parents to pay. That was the number one thing people said. Oh, no one can afford Christian education out here in the forest. And I didn't know anything about Step Up. So I'm thinking in my head, if we could just get that tuition down, low, maybe we could get. And then I had a church member come to me and say, don't you know there's a Step Up voucher? And I Googled it, and lo and behold, that was the answer to my fear. And so then I started looking into how do we qualify for this money. Not patting myself on the back, but I think God blessed our effort because we wanted to start this school before we knew anything about a voucher system. We weren't even sure if it would financially be appropriate for our community, but we just had that. We had that drive to do something, and it's worked out. We did not vote at our church to start a school. During our stewardship committee meetings to propose our annual budget for the next year, I got them to put in their new school expense, $5,000. And we presented to the church, and I stood up in front of the church and said, this is, we're looking into the feasibility of school. This money may cover some initial costs. Passed without even anyone saying anything. I told everyone that this was our goal, our committee is going this direction, but we didn't have an official vote. Maybe you should do that. The spirit was right in our church that we didn't have to make it official like that. We started with $5,000, and by September of the same calendar year, the school paid the church back the $5,000. Didn't cost the church any money to start the school, which is amazing. Now the school is not in our church budget since then. You need to eventually, if your church gets to the point where you vote on it or you get it in the budget, the exploratory committee, those people that are on your side need to become your committee, board, call it whatever you want, task force. You need to set the schedule so it doesn't drop off. You need to lead it as the pastor or the leader of it, because people love the idea, but then doing the hard work sometimes, they just kind of fade. So you have to have a taskmaster type approach sometimes. Again, it goes back to one person having a huge burden. Any thoughts so far on that?
So, I think you probably already mentioned this, but are you going to send us the notes?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I can do that, and it's recorded. But I'll email this to you.
Oh, perfect. It's
Yeah.
recorded, yeah.
And by the way, if your church gets to that point where you get more serious and you want me to come out to talk to some folks, by all means, you can buy me some lunch. And I'll work for food.
Would you be able to talk about paperwork and the government side of things, like how much involvement that takes?
Start small. When you're thinking about Christian school, don't think of Dunellen Christian Academy. Think of one classroom in your church, real small. Let me turn my phone off, please. And you need a year to 2 years to plan this out. School starts in August of every year. That is your cutoff date. So we started in earnest about this time the year before we started school. So for us, it was about 15 months that we had, and it was tight. It was tight. I would, if I do it all over again, I would have given myself 2 years to get all the paperwork done. Identify your community's need. For us, it was middle school. So we started in 6th grade because we can and we wanted to. Our students were bused to Fort McCoy and Lake Weir. It was an hour-and-a-half bus ride every day to school. So the reason why our parents enrolled their students to us is just logistics. It's so much easier. I had one parent say that they liked the long distance because that provides them enough time to get home from work. So it's like babysitting for them on the bus. But all of our parents, being a Christian school was great, but it was all about logistics and convenience for them. And that's what you'll run into. You have in your mind, you're going to disciple these people for Jesus. Parents are less interested in that. I didn't have any of our parents in our church enroll their kid the first year. And I had kids in my church I thought were shoo-ins. Wouldn't do it. My own people didn't fully trust that it would work, and 2, that it would be a quality education. Now they're enrolling, and we have more church members in our school, but there was a huge contingency. If they're listening, I love you, that just weren't completely on board, and they had to see it before they could believe it. So all of my students are community children coming from non-churched homes, which is amazing in some ways. So we started, you see Miss Gwen there in the picture. I was told another big hurdle would be finding a teacher to work for nothing and to come out to the forest. We knew Miss Gwen through a church member. Miss Gwen taught at East Marion Elementary, 5th grade. She'd been there for 2 years, and I've known her, and I've heard the horror stories, how she just she didn't want to teach there anymore. She taught at Meadowbrook for 15 years before. Moved to public school because it was closer to her home. She lives in the forest. I knew she was not content where she was, and so in January of 2021, I asked her, hey, we want to start a school this coming August. We're looking for a teacher. Does that interest you at all? And I didn't expect her to say yeah, but it did. And so she had, this is this amazing thing. She had to give her intent to her employer, her principal, that she would be coming back in the fall. So she did not do that. In March, when she was asked by her administrator, are you coming back for the fall? She said, no, I'm going to Building Bridges Academy across the street. And I have, at this point in March, I have 0 students signed up. I'm not even sure it's going to work. This woman quit her job.
Wow.
On faith that we would have students. So now that's the anxiety welling up in me. And her salary, she said, I would love to come, but I need this dollar amount. It blew my mind. How am I going to raise, I think it was $39,000. I don't have a single student. God worked it all out. We started with 13 students. It took 7 of those students to make her salary. So it's amazing. There's this old thought process that private school teachers get paid nothing compared to the public school teachers. Not true anymore. Step Up for Students, the vouchers, private schools can now competitively pay their teachers on par with public school teachers. So Miss Gwen's still with us today. She's on her 3rd year with us. We wanted to start with 6th grade, but we didn't have enough 6th graders. So we opened it up to 7th. So we had 10 6th graders and 3 7th graders. So she taught 2 grades. Twice as much work, but she did a great job. She did a great job. Those are the desks that I found all around the church. This room in the church was a junk room. Literally, just junk piled into the ceiling. Not been used in 20 years. It was time. So we started with 1 teacher. I was the PE teacher. I was the principal. And she was the full-time teacher, did everything else. and I've never been paid for what I've done for the school. That's another thing. You do what you want, but you avoid the appearance of impropriety of profiting off ministry like that. Okay, to your point about paperwork, the first step you could do this today, is register with the Department of Education, and you fill out what's called the non-public school annual survey. It's just an online form. You put in the name of your school, make up a name, it doesn't matter, you can change it. The address, you fill out what grades you want to offer, and then you will be, at the end of that form, granted a ID number. I think ours is 8501. And that's the first step, registering with the state of the private school. And then from that website, they will link you to Step Up for Students. And then the second list, number 2 here is requirement checklist. That requirement checklist, I printed it off, I bound it, and that became my manual. What do I need to do? Here's the things, here's most all of them. The first step is rezoning your church. You have to go to the county zoning department. And so we had to pull a special use permit because you're no longer a church, now you're a church and a school. You're re-permit. That process took, I think, 4 months. 4 months because they needed site plans. They needed parking lot schematics. I needed a fire inspection. Well, the fire inspector uncovered some things that we needed to fix with our facility. Well, you got to fix them before you get the fire marshal to sign off. And then the zoning commission, they meet, I think it's quarterly. When I was doing it 2 years ago, it was quarterly, where they consider all the re-permitting in Marion County. And so I had to go to the meetings, and I had to answer any questions from the public. You have to give time for your neighbors in that area to come and say, I don't want the Christian school next to my house. So you have to give a public hearing for it. One of the things that they recommended was you need to get a petition filled out. Get as many signatures as you can to show that this is a good thing. So I had the entire church sign the petition, which they loved. It was a big, like, we're doing it. So that was great. That takes the longest time. And then there's fees. There's fees to that. There's a permit fee. There is a impact fee. You said that they're not charging impact fees. They did us. It was $76 per student, and I had to guess on how many students we would have. So I did 20 kids because I didn't know. So you pay that annually. At the time, it was $76. That $5,000 that we budgeted in our church, that covered that. So the zoning is the longest part of the process. Fire inspection, the water inspection. We have a well, so they had to do water testing and make sure it's up to code. Health inspection, that was more of a joke than anything. They came around, they checked the air quality, they looked at my ceiling tiles and said that one needs to be replaced, that one needs to be replaced. The health inspection is not a big deal. The bond was a big deal. Because you're a brand new entity, the state doesn't just want to give you money without a proven track record. So you have to be insured against loss. If our school were to go under, we need to be able to pay the state back the voucher money. So we had to find a bond. And the bond was hard to find. We finally came across a company that would issue us a bond, a $100,000 value bond. I think that bond cost us $1,300. I can give you the name of the company. I think it was Washington Mutual did ours. We had to create the website with the anti-discrimination policy. We modified a discrimination policy a little bit. We didn't want to add some of the LGBTQ stuff. They didn't have a problem with it. As long as we state that we're not going to discriminate against, race, country of origin, familial status. Background checks. All of your people have to be background checked, volunteers background check. It's $100 a person for background checks. So everyone who's alone with kids, and whoever the administrator is of the school has to be trained in Falcon. Falcon is an online database that you access background checks, and that's all private information. So you have to go through this extensive training seminar online to be an official Falcon trained administrator. A lot of it's common sense. There's little tests you take, and then you can look at people's social security numbers and criminal background checks. That was a process to get that under your belt. Teacher files have to be all in order. Their credentials, their background check. Radon test is simple. You just buy that at Lowe's. So it detects radon in your property. I don't even know what radon is. If there's radon, you can't have a school. So when you go to the requirement checklist on FDLOE, they will, all the things that I just mentioned to you are right here. And you can print this off and go check it off as you go along. This website will be your new best friend. The annual survey. Request school code. All right, here's the annual survey. You fill out all these little blocks, hit submit, you'll get your code. That's simple, but you have to do it legally. So the fldoe.org has all the information that I'm talking about right now.
Jared, you said that you were the principal. What degree qualifications needed for that?
College. Everyone, full-time staff, every teacher, administrator has to have college. Doesn't matter what.
Same with the principal.
I don't think so. Don't quote me on that. I don't think so, though.
And you do need a degree, a BA or BS?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, if you have a Spanish class and you have a Mexican in your church that's fluent and she doesn't have any education, that's okay. She has a native skill. She can teach Spanish class, Spanish 1 and 2, without a degree. If you have someone in your church that's an engineer and they can teach a robotics class, they have the skill. There's exceptions to that rule that you can employ people without college degrees. But you have to get them to approve it. This process is a year-long process because there's setback after setback, and you forgot this, Mr. Buchanan. You also have to find copies of this and that. Your insurance policy for your church has got to be big enough, extensive enough. So there's a lot of little hoops. Once you fulfill all the requirements, the Florida Department of Education will send a representative to your church to inspect all your files, and all this stuff is in your filing cabinet, correct? They don't take a tour of your school. Oddly enough, they're interested in your filing cabinet that has all of this stuff printed and readily available. So once they do the inspection, you have to get on their calendar, so it may take 3 months for you to get on their calendar. And then you may have to wait a couple months for them to issue their report. So you don't want to wait like we did till June to get our inspection, and it's August 1st, and I'm not completely approved yet. And school starts in a week. We were approved in the week leading up to school. We got our approval. I wasn't sure if we were going to start school. We just may not be paid for I was looking at trying to find ways to make my payroll for the first 4 months because I didn't think I was going to get approved. Didn't come to that. We were approved, and the money came in like it should.
And the government subsidized your teachers' salaries?
Completely.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. So right now, Step Up for Students, I think the rate right now is $7,400 per student. And so parents go online, and they fill out their Step Up information, and then they are given a award letter on their online profile. It may take a few weeks for them to get the award. They print it off, they bring us the award number on the paper, and then we have our own portal where we upload their information. Our administrator enrolls students to our school. And then our school is issued 4 quarter payments. We're paid quarterly. And so they break up that $7,400 4 times over all the students. And that's how we're paid.
Did you have any trouble finding qualified teachers?
The first one was a miracle. Before you came, I was sharing about her. She was a local 5th grade teacher, and she was a believer, ready to leave the public school. She informed her principal in March that she would not be returning to her class, that she's going to this new private school in the fall. And so she came on board by faith. She stepped out, and we were able to match her salary.
Wow.
On year 1. So our entire year 1 school budget, I think, was $74,000. Well, 40 of that went to Miss Gwen. Yeah, the church didn't require the school to pay anything to the church. We can get into that in a sec. But everything was wrapped up in payroll and books our first year.
Jared, the state can't make you teach some of the stuff they're teaching.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So they do not look over your back, your curriculum, to see if you teach all you want about Jesus. We have Bible class every student goes to Bible class every day. We have chapel once a week. Christ is in all that's taught. All the curriculum is Christian curriculum. Now there are state tests that the students have to take. There's like the SATs, and then there's our students were taking the it's called the Iowa exam. It's like there's lots of them. Some schools do MAP testing. There's a list of approved testing that the state comes out with, and so a private school must choose from one of those approved annual tests. And as long as the students are taking those tests and passing those tests, the school can continue. So there's no oversight over. That's why a lot of liberally minded people hate this program, because we're teaching things like creationism, and that's tax money going to subsidize that. The liberals understand what's going on. This is the churches are taking hold of education, but they're losing the argument. The genie's out of the bottle now. Now, will there be a time where we're required to compromise our principles as a church and sign some sort of document affirming LGBTQ? If it comes to that, I'd rather close the school down. We're just not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And we've told our people that. We've discussed it in group leaders that if this gravy train runs out, we're hopping off. We're not going to do that. This whole process takes one person being dedicated to doing it. If you have a committee and you say, hey, you do the radon test, you do the permitting, you do this, that may work in your situation. It would not work where I was. I would have been waiting on people to do their jobs. It becomes your job as a pastor or the person to lead the process. It's work.
How soon after you got started before you had a principal, other than you?
God provided. So during our first year, I attended a pastor's breakfast prayer group at Unity Baptist Church, and one of our pastors came and said to the group, we have an IMB missionary that's on furlough. He may be coming stateside. If you want him to come to your church for a presentation. So I met him. He came and preached at our church. His name was Aaron Brindle, IMB missionary to India, Pakistan. And while he's strolling around the church, we're giving him a tour on that Sunday. He said, so you have a school? I said, yeah, I'm the principal. We have one teacher. He said, if there's anything that opens up here, I need to find a job. I was like, you do, huh? So he was still being paid by the IMB, so he couldn't take a salary. So he volunteered at our school for the first year running PE for me. Just volunteering. Year number 2, he was on salary. He's our principal. No experience. And best decision we've made. If you have the determination, ethic, and the ability to look at details, anyone can be a principal, even without the experience. And so year number 2, he was on salary as our principal completely.
So you really only had one teacher?
One teacher the first year.
How many grades? 2 grades. Okay.
They were in one classroom. My music pastor at our church, he did music class once a day. I did PE once a day, and she taught all the subjects.
And what grades did you have?
6th and 7th.
Now, why did you start in the middle, kind of like that, in middle school?
Well, we had an elementary school across the street from our church. That was one thing. Another thing was our students in our community were being bused an hour and a half to Fort McCoy.
Ooh.
So it was a need in our community. You can start at kindergarten. You can start at 6th grade. You can do an all-boys school, an all-girls school. There's lots of ways you can fit what would work in your community.
How many students did you start with?
13.
And now you're expanding into high school?
Yes. When it was pitched as a middle school. But last year, me and folks in the hallway are talking about these poor 8th graders that were going to go to Forest High School. And we can't let this happen. So I, at that point, did take it to the church body, and we voted as a church to start 9th grade, go into high school.
But that doesn't change your requirements for your teachers?
Nope.
Because when we were in Georgia, church we were at, they had a school, and they only went to 8th grade because they could have just about anybody teach.
Mm-hmm.
But when they hit high school, you actually had to be a teacher with a lot more credentials than any other grade.
Yes. I've heard that, and I'm aware of that too. I am not aware of that rule with Step Up here now in Florida.
Well, you had the same requirements for middle school. You have the degree requirement for middle school, so it just passes on into high school.
Yeah, well, this school only had, they didn't have just anybody off the street come and teach. I mean, they were pretty picky anyway, but when it came to high school, it seriously stepped up.
Normally, you have to have someone specialized in mathematics, have a math degree, a history degree. I think that should be your goal, for sure.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit towards the grant that we have available?
Okay. So through the Marion Baptist Association, there is a grant available for any church of like faith and order in our area that needs some money to get started, some seed money. So there's an application with Marion Baptist to fill it out. The stewardship committee, Mr. Mark, pretty much signs off on it, and you can receive $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 to start your expenses. I'm going to move on. Some of your questions may be answered. Keep going. So your partners in this process, Marion County Zoning Department, believe it or not, they're the nicest folks. They bend over backwards to help you. I know we like to put down government workers, but that office in Marion County, extremely helpful to me. Department of Education, some great people in there. I mean, they were really bending over backwards to help me get approval to the compliance list. Step Up for Students, all these folks made my life easier. And then I think you really need a sister church who's been there, done that, and that you can call whenever you have a question, and Google won't give you the answer. You just need to call somebody. Our church, our school's available. I'm available. So is Austin Tucker down at Grace Point. I'm sure Dunellen Christian Academy. They're a little harder to get a hold of, but you can get a hold of me pretty easy. So this is my favorite part. I'm not sure how we are on time.
We're good.
Okay, integrating your church and school, so important, because you don't want to have two separate entities. Do you already have teachers, retired or not, in your church body, secretaries? My secretary today is volunteer. She's a retired woman. She wants to do it. She saves us a lot of money. She files paperwork all the time. She's our admissions counselor. Someone who can do designs, flyers, posters, banners in the community. We do Facebook ads, targeted Facebook ads. Somebody who is really good at that sort of stuff. Maybe you as a pastor or a leader aren't. I'm sure there's somebody in your church who can do those things. You need to have a school board, a committee of church members. Maybe you appoint them, but the church votes on them. We have clubs every Friday from 1 to 1:50. We have club hour. And we have church members run all these clubs. And they're all volunteers. We got baking, crochet, sewing, fishing, board games, journalism, reading, puppets, band, volleyball. Church member says, hey, I'm really good at taxidermy work. He's got a club. And the boys love it. It's during the elective hour. The clubs for us are a way to get church members in the school with the kids. That's all it's about. You always have to think, what do I need to ask the church for? Keep asking them, hey, we did backpacks. We did school supplies. Scholarships. You may have some church members who can afford scholarships for these students. So what I mean by that, Step Up pays for all of the tuition. But we do have a $150 registration fee for parents to pay. We have a $500 curriculum fee. We have a $150 technology fee, and then we have $50 for uniforms. Parents have to pay up to, I think, $850 to get their kid into our school. You got to have buy-in from the community, or you got to make them pay a little bit. Some of our parents said, we can't do that, so they pay monthly over the course of the year. Don't be afraid to charge them. But you may have a church member who said, I can cover one student. Prayer cards. We issue prayer cards with the kid's face on it, and they're on refrigerators all across our church family. Take members visiting. We go visit these families. I take some church members and we go knock on doors. So this is a ministry of the church, and the church needs to take ownership of this. It's not just your thing, it's the whole church's thing. My ambition when I started the school was to backpedal as fast as I could out of it. Because I don't want to be a principal. I don't want to be a teacher. But I wanted it there. So my conviction was to start it and back away, because I need to get back to other pastoral duties. I can't do this full time forever. But for the first year, it sucked my time. So you just have to be aware of that. Questions or thoughts?
So on that, where you talk about the different things you charge first, can you also say, it doesn't have to be the exact what you charge, but just kind of a ballpark figure for all the different areas that you charge, and then about approximately how much, just to kind of get an idea?
Okay. I can do one better. Everything is listed on our website.
Okay, I just looking at it.
So we stole everything we needed from Grace Point Academy, and they let us. Hey, I need a parent handbook, a teacher parent handbook. Here you go. He emailed it to me on the first, because you have to have that first compliance. I changed the name Grace Point to Building Bridges Academy. And I edited a few things that didn't make sense for us, but they basically helped us write our book. If you go on to we went to other websites. What do other schools charge? Are we far off? So you can come to our website and steal anything you want.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So don't feel bad about stealing, borrowing. Wherever there's a good idea, take a good idea. So we have on our website Step Up. They can click on that. Parents can learn more about Step Up. our staff. This is an old picture. They're not good pictures. That's me. So I'm head of school. I'm not paid, but the school falls under the leadership of the elders of our church. And that's how it's going to remain. We do have a board that operates quarterly, and they oversee all the new hires. Our principal, that's how we decided. Our principal says, I have a teacher we want, and if they pass the principal, the board just wants to get to know the teachers. Who are we hiring in our church? But ultimately, the elders kind of are the final stop. This is our music, and that's our music pastor. Our volunteer I told you about, our principal, Mr. Brindle. Sideways picture of Miss Gwen. This is a new hire. He's a church member. He's got a master's in history. Yeah, so I love him. He's a wonderful man. I asked him if he'd be interested in being our teacher on year 1, and he said no. He said he can't afford me. And I probably could. So he turned me down. It was like, you're the guy. He wasn't the guy. Miss Gwen was. Now he's employed with us. Sorry about the picture. She's our math teacher. I knew her in the community. She's one of our best teachers. She's our math. I'm sorry about this picture being sideways. Angel and Cody. They are from our forest. 4 or 5 years ago, they got saved, baptized, married, went off to the Baptist College of Florida, got a ministry degree, teaching degree. Now they're back teaching for us. Like that happens too. Miraculous things. Church member. She was a parent of one of the kids our first year. She volunteered so much, I gave her a job. And now she's a church member. And then he's our office coordinator. He's a volunteer. That's our financial secretary. So she's our church secretary, and then she became the school secretary. So I didn't have to worry about QuickBooks and payroll. Our board. So I'm not saying the way we did things is the right way of doing things. But we had a lot of success providentially. Providential.
You're only 2 years in.
This is our third year.
Third year. And how many are paid staff? Some of those are volunteers.
So 2021-22, 1 full-time teacher, 2 part-time. 13 students. We had to dismiss 2 students for behavior. That was hard. We got to make payroll. Now we're down to 11. But then God brought 2 more students. We enrolled them later in the year, and it made up. Next year, 3 full-time teachers, 1 full-time principal, 2 part-time teachers. 33 students. Yeah.
So we have a cleaning company that cleans our church twice a week. Did you have the same cleaners clean your school?
So, in our situation, I let my custodian go before we started the school. For some budgetary reasons, we couldn't afford it. And we had volunteers cleaning our church area. We did that for 3 years as a church, cleaning our own church. We made it work. But this past year, we hired a property manager. He does it all now. And he's paid for by the school. And he cleans the whole church. Church loves it. So all my cleaning volunteers, I let them go. And they were so thrilled. Last year, we let go 4 students for behavior issues. We just started our new year. We have 3 full-time teachers, 1 full-time principal, 4 part-time teachers. That young couple that I told you came to faith, they're both part-time because they have a baby. They don't want to pay for childcare. So he keeps the baby half the day, and then they trade off the baby. So we make it work. So we have 2 part-time for that reason. And we have a full-time property manager, 56 students, and now we are finally accredited by CJACS, Church of God Association of Christian Schools. They won't accredit what doesn't exist. We had to wait a few years before we got our accreditation. That property manager, just to give you an idea, I told you that it's no longer true that private school teachers aren't paid as well. Just to give you kind of a pay scale, We came up with a pay scale based on education, experience, and teaching certificate. Our lowest paid teacher is paid $35,000. Our highest paid is Miss Gwen, and she's making $42,000. That's pretty comparable. That's pretty good. Our property manager makes $40,000 a year.
Do they know what each other makes, and are they okay with it?
Yeah, don't say it. Don't.
I was gonna say.
No, this pay scale is public. They know the pay scale. They know if they get their Florida teaching certificate, they get a $1,000 raise. So some of them are working hard to get it. Every year that they're there, they get a pay bump. So it's all public. They know. Our principal is making more than our teachers. So altogether, our annual budget for this year, what is 56 times 7,400? Whatever that is. Quite a bit. A lot bigger than our church. Our school budget's bigger than our church budget.
Do you automatically turn students away if they are IEP?
We have to know what their IEP is. So we don't have the teaching staff that we need. So we look at the IEP, and if there are reasonable accommodations, the homeroom teacher will kind of sign off. They'll evaluate with each student. But we've had to turn students away for that reason. Let me go back. Things to avoid. Us versus them mentality. Like church, school. They need to pay their bill. No, we are them. They are us. They're our ministry. So the us versus them mentality will kill your spirit in your church. Well, they made a mess in our hallway. They put a hole in the wall in my Sunday school classroom. No, our ministry people did. People who we're ministering to. So it's a mindset that you have to constantly reiterate to the church and creating a cash cow. Some people say, well, if we can do this, they'll bankroll our church. And there are some private schools that do bankroll their church. And what happens? People stop giving money because the school will pay for it. Don't want that to happen. Laxing standards on hiring, but I really need this hire. I had a woman who I wanted to hire, but then she expressed to me her firm conviction about losing salvation. I didn't hire her. I needed her, but I'm not going to invite that into my student body. So you can't lack standards. Relinquishing compliance must-do to volunteers. We've kind of already gone over that. If there's a must-do, a thing on your checklist you got to get done, don't give it to a volunteer. You do it. You give stuff to the volunteers that if they mess up, it's not the end of the world. Some things that you as a pastor just got to do. Being afraid to charge parents. Don't let that. People will tell you that they can't afford it. They can too. I got my parents go down to the fireworks stand on 4th of July and spend $300 on fireworks, so they can afford it. It's about priorities. It's priorities. Being afraid to say no. People will come to me, Pastor, don't you think we should provide school lunches for the students? No. All of our students bring bag lunch. They've done it for 3 years, and it's working out great. I don't have to hire a lunchroom lady. I don't have to. Now, there is USDA has a program where you can have school lunches and offer them free to the students. We just didn't want to get into all that red tape and paperwork. It's an ordeal. Right now we're doing bag lunches. It works for us. So you'll be given a lot of ideas along the way, and you have to look at your core values and your strategy. You let down parents and you let down church members because you didn't take their idea. You will make enemies you didn't know you had. Being afraid to shoot straight with church leaders. I shot straight. I told them, I don't know if this is going to work. I'm praying. Pray with me. I need 7 students to start this school. I got 4. I need 3 more. So every time we had a new student enroll, we would ring the bell, tell the church, we got another one this week. And so we started the enrollment process in 2021 in January, and we enrolled all the way up to August, and we got 13 out of 6 months of recruiting. It always starts small. Being afraid to take the blame if it fails, just know that. It can happen. Nothing's a guarantee. We already looked at this. The reason I show you this is I want you to get an idea of how small we started and the projected growth. So for us, our goal is 17 students per grade. We're not going to do 2 classes per grade. Our classrooms can fit 17. So our goal is to have a 6th through 12th grade at 17 students per grade. I think the math is 102. That's our goal. We're done. So don't think you have to have a huge school. You don't. You may decide, hey, we only want to do kindergarten. Just one. We want to start a private Christian kindergarten. There's nothing saying you can't do that. So just to give you a little insight on how we operate, everywhere you go, it's different. Our church, we don't officially charge them because they're not our rentee. We don't lease the property to them. The school board issues 10% of all proceeds to the church. We divide that up. 5% goes to our missions budget. We have a missions budget that pays for all the fun stuff we do. And then 5% goes to a building fund for air conditions, repaving the parking lot, things like that, big ticket items. And then we charge a monthly utility. I think we charge $1,000 a month for utilities. I'm not even sure if that covers it. And then the property manager. That's a huge blessing. You can, down the road, you can hire a pastor of music or youth, and they're paid by the school. Their day job is the school, but they're your church's pastor. I mean, there's legitimate ways of funding your pastoral staff or support staff through the school. That's legal, it's fine, as long as they're actually doing a service to the school. This year, we will be audited for the first time. Once you hit the threshold of $250,000 as a school, you're audited. So we'll be audited every single year. And they will go over our books with a fine-tooth comb. We have to hire a CPA so that we are in compliance with state rules, so they see that we're not embezzling the money. And the last but not least, this is not a silver bullet to church growth. There are no silver bullets. We've worked hard. I've baptized a couple students. We've got a lot of people attend on Sunday morning. We've got a couple families that joined. We are seeing a lot of kids come on Wednesday night to our youth group, 30 and 40 kids. But it's not a silver bullet for church growth. Just keep that in mind. It has helped us, but it's not just, we're not busting at the seams now on Sunday morning. That was the end of my show. More thoughts on this? I know a couple of y'all came in a little late. Maybe you have another question I didn't get to.
Just, Jared, as I'm sitting here listening to your whole presentation, the whole thing is miraculous. And giving praise and honor and glory to God for what it's done through Building Bridges Academy. And obviously, just the fact that you had school desks sitting around your building, and you had a teacher that, wanted to teach. You had an IMB missionary that you hired as a missionary, as a principal. Just all of these things. And so sometimes what churches do is they'll look at what happened in one church, and they'll say, look what they did. We can replicate that over here. But God was in it, obviously. You wouldn't have done it if he wasn't. It wasn't like you were looking for a project and set out and said, what could we do? But sometimes churches do it backwards. They see something successful, and they try to emulate that, and God's not in it. And if God's not in it, he's got a way of showing you that he's not in it. And you talk about failure and crashing and burning and all of that. So just the encouragement that, obviously, a lot of prayer. You started with Scripture. Your motivation was fulfilling the Great Commission. This is about making disciples, not just educating students. So just encourage anybody thinking about doing this, make sure that God is in it. Make sure that God is directing you in it. spend a lot of time in prayer, a lot of time in the Word, and then look for what He provides along the way. And sometimes we try to make things happen that God didn't intend to happen, and sometimes we overlook resources that He's dropped in our lap that's just been there the whole time. And so you were good at spotting those things that God had already placed there and had already put there. But other churches, you may overcome a lot of hurdles. There may be things that you want to do this, you want to have the same results that Oklawaha Bridge has, but it's just not God's plan for you, and it's just not going to work for you because that's not what He intended you to do. But if He has, awesome.
Yeah, it was a miracle. Is a good way of putting it. We took a step of faith out, not knowing how we would finish this, and God brought people left and right that wanted to get on board the bandwagon, and I couldn't have done it by myself. So as of today, I'm head of school, but I'm there to be a cheerleader. I walk the halls, high five kids. We are looking for a homeroom 10th grade teacher for next year. And I could do the job. I could, but that's not my role. I gotta stick to my lane. I'm pastor. I'm not teacher. So if you know of anybody looking for a homeroom 10th grade teacher, let me know. So, but yeah, any thoughts?
No questions?
Thank you. Very thorough, and thank you for sharing all those details.
Well, let me email this to anybody who wants this email to them.
Jared is available to you for consulting, coaching. Also, Austin Tucker at Grace Point Academy is also available. And we're just so blessed at Marion Baptist Association to have these resource people. I'm sure Russ Randall out at Denellen Christian Academy would be glad to talk to you too. His education has been a huge part of who he is. I'm not sure who, Jackie could probably tell you who to reach out at First Baptist Bellevue. Who the-